9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because on this platform we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I also have a smaller channel called Latina Diaspora where I discuss issues pertaining to Latinos in the United States. The link to that channel is in the description. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, the subscriber mode has been enabled for the first 5 minutes. Meaning, if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you will need to subscribe to the channel. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel. Whether you've been there from the very beginning or those recently joined, I really appreciate your love and continued support. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, as well as those who allow me to enter into your devices, and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and set the bell notifications to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So, as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic for tonight will be obsession. So, we're going to describe what it is and some of the characteristics. But before we get into the main topic, we're going to have another episode of In My Words. Now, first of all, I want to talk about what's happening in recent news. It's been reported that unfortunately Joe Biden has been diagnosed with colon cancer, and of course, whenever we hear the word cancer, we have all sorts of fearful notions and things of that nature. It is serious, and of course, the one thing to bear in mind that Joe Biden is in advanced age. He is 82 years old. So I just want to say that while I disagree with many of his policies, um, I would not wish anyone to come down with any type of illness, regardless who or what disagreements we have had. So obviously, my thoughts and prayers to go out with Joe Biden. Um, Hopefully, he'll recover. Time will tell. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to copyright infringement. Now, I have addressed this yesterday But I need to address it again. Now, when it comes to sharing my content, okay, if it's from those content creators who support me, you don't need my permission. They automatically have my permission to do so. Okay, and those generate if you enjoy my content and you find value, and if you wish to share it, I don't have a problem with that. Where I have a problem is, of course, when people use my content to harass and mock me. Because what happens is you will be reported. And again, let me make this perfectly clear. If you decide to take any of my images and load it onto your content in YouTube or any social media platform to harass me, you will be reported. I will report you to um, YouTube as violation of copyright and also violation of the community guidelines. Now, I just wish that YouTube be more stringent when it comes in its enforcement. Perhaps they will be, only time will tell. And of course, we are approaching the Memorial Day weekend, which is the unofficial start of summer. Okay? And of course, when you think about summer, you think about vacation, you think about barbecues, think about going to the beach, think about going to the pool. Um, that's where the majority of people they take their vacations and enjoy themselves and indulge in recreational activities. Plus, I am no different. I mean, I will be taking my vacation time. I will be traveling this summer. And of course, I'll be loading images. Now, one thing I will state, um, please be sure to take your vacation time. Okay? We all need a break from work. We all need a diversion, something healthy to do. Okay? And whether you're going far or whether you're staying in your local city or town, make sure that you spend some time for yourself and relax because life is very short. Okay, and you'll be surprised how quickly time goes. I mean, as soon as you're born, a few years you're in elementary school, a couple more years you're in junior high school, a couple more years you're in high school, and then a couple more years you're in college, you graduate, and then you become an adult, hopefully a productive member of society, and you work for about, say, 30 to 40 years until you decide to retire. You spend your golden ages, your golden years, and then you go to your final reward. Okay. Life is too short to be worrying about stuff that you have absolutely no control. My philosophy is be concerned regarding the things that I do have some impact, something I can control. Those things that I am not able to control, I'll put it in God's hand and allow God to deal with it. So now there's been a change regarding this week's schedule. I was going to do a stream regarding deliverance a Christian concept tomorrow. It's going to be Thursday, and it's going to be done like around 10 o'clock. Usually, I don't do streams that late. It's just that I have a very busy social schedule this week. Unlike some individuals, I actually have a life outside of YouTube. And I'll be involved in other activities. So, with that being said, we're going to get to the main topic. Now, before I get in the main topic, let me just state for the record that the link to join the panel has been pinned. Should anyone wishes to hit the link and opine regarding the topic in question, they may do so. Again, let me make this perfectly clear. If I've never seen you before, if I never heard from you before, I will insist that you come up on the backstage to make sure that no one flashes anything inappropriate, which would cause the people of YouTube to take down the stream. So before we get into the topic, let me just share just give me a moment. Good evening, Georgia. I don't think Mr. is going to try, but then again, if he tries to hop on, he's going to be removed. It is that simple. Well, thank you for stopping down, Georgia. So let me just present my screen. So just give me a moment. Hopefully, okay. Now, first of all, obsession is obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD as it's called. It is a mental health condition characterized by unwanted intrusive thoughts, obsessions, and other repetitive behavior compulsions. These obsessions and compulsions can be extremely distressing and interfere with daily life. Now, I think, let's see, just give me a moment. Okay, fine. Let me just, okay. Just let me, just give me a moment so I can just discuss it and then we're going to take it. Now, when it comes to obsessions, these are recurring and persistent thoughts, images, or urges that are experienced and intrusive and unwanted. They cause significant anxiety or distress and are often perceived as irrational. I don't know. You know what? I, if you want to do it on your panel, that's fine. I'm trying to keep it troll free. Now, convulsions, these are repetitive behaviors or mental acts that a person feels driven to perform in response to an obsession. The purpose of these behaviors is to reduce anxiety or prevent fear outcome. Now, I see here we have here Little May Dabber. Good evening. thank you very much for stopping by. I think this is your first time here. First of all, welcome, and thank you very, very much for stopping by. So let me just give you examples of obsessions. Fear of contamination or germs. Need for order, substantially or precision. Unwanted aggression or sexual thoughts. Fear of harming oneself or others. And fear of losing or replacing something. Now, examples of compulsion are excessive hand washing or cleaning, repetitive checking things, e.g., locks, appliances, counting or repeating things, arranging or organizing things in a specific way. Asking for reassurance. Now, the impact of OCD are the following: significant distress and anxiety, interference with daily life, including work, school, and social activities, relationship problems, poor quality of life. Now, when it comes to treatment, which is called cognitive behavior therapy, a type of therapy helps individuals manage their obsessions and compulsion by challenging negative thoughts and developing coping strategies. It can be dealt with medications, such as antidepressants can be prescribed to help reduce anxiety and manage OCD symptoms. If you or someone you know is experiencing symptoms of OCD, it's important to seek help from a mental health professional. Early intervention can improve outcomes and reduce the impact of OCD in daily life. So we're going to pop this here now. So that's kind of gives you a definition what it is, because here we define what is the actual term that's being used. Okay. Unfortunately, what happened is you have certain individuals who mention terminology, mention words, but they don't have a full understanding of what is the meaning behind it. Okay, no problem. Now, we do see this definitely on social media. Okay, we see it with certain individuals who I describe as hurt people, because hurt people hurt people. You have people who have certain obsessions. You have certain individuals who act irrationally towards certain content creators. We have seen this on multiple platforms. Okay. And I have a feeling that these individuals, they don't really know themselves why they respond the way they respond. Okay. But I mean, it's unfortunately, you have certain individuals who lack coping skills. You have certain individuals who lack logic. You have certain individuals that, for whatever reason, are obsessed with you and try to create as much trauma as possible. We have seen this on multiple platforms. Okay. Now, for the most part, we've seen this behavior that's been directed towards the female content creators. And we have seen the results: trolling, harassment, uh, loading their images without their consent, loading their images for the express purpose of harassing other content creators, and also to the extent of actually posting false reports to the authorities and children's services. Yeah, you know what? The problem with social media, it does people, people will do anything or say anything um, in order to create attention. One of the problems with these people that are obsessed is that they crave attention. Okay. And it doesn't matter whether it's good attention, it doesn't matter if it's bad attention, it does crave attention, nevertheless. Okay. And I'm sorry to say that you will see that definitely on social media. Okay. I mean, look, if you go to TikTok, there is a large segment that will say anything or do anything in order to elicit a response. I mean, look, and women, and to a lesser extent men, are guilty of this. Okay, so I don't want to make it sound like it's only females that do this, that are obsessed. Males are just as guilty. Okay, let me see. Say, I'm a shallow person in a way you can say with the times of my youth. Okay, well, I mean that is up to you. I mean, I am not going to say. Oh, okay. Look, lately, and I say it lately, I visited a couple of other platforms, other content creators, and it seems like they they are overwhelmed by people who are obsessed. Now, there's certain obsessions that people have. Okay, like for example, there's certain people that are obsessed about gaining access to women to engage in sexual activity. And the problem is with these individuals, they don't have. First of all, they they look at women just for the purposes of satisfying their own sexual lust and desires. And what happened is whenever a female says no to these individuals, they get upset. They don't know how to respond. They just simply, and what they would do is they would respond a couple of ways. Either they will harass these ladies, they will troll these ladies, or they will call these ladies anything but a child of God. Okay. And on one content creator who's a female, there was an individual who filed false privacy claims against this female content creator. And of course, um, she was able to prove that the accusations were not valid. And of course, I have to deal with my haters. My haters, have this obsession about trying to paint me a certain way as being racist and other things. Now we all know that hurt people hurt people. Okay. And the unfortunate thing is that it all comes from behavior. It all comes from trauma. Okay. Well, maybe these people were never given the attention that they sought as children. They gone through having their heart broken and they never recover. I don't know. What I do know is that I'm not a therapist, but something has happened in their lives. No, they don't. They don't. And what gets me is this. They have the need to project. They have the need to create negative press about yours truly. What these people fail to understand that what they are doing is creating free press. Okay? And let me explain what I mean by that. What happens is when you have people who do not know anything about me and they come across my ops and they hear my ops saying that I'm everything but a child of God, that I'm someone to be avoided, I'm someone that is not well liked, so on and so on. What that does is people are going to tune into my channel and out of curiosity to find out whether what they are saying is true or false. And what they find is, of course, their accusation of false. So that's why I'm saying when these people who are obsessed, they talk about me, they're creating free press. Good evening, Irby. Thank you very much for stopping by. So the topic for tonight is obsession. Now let me just give you some other examples of bizarre behavior that could be considered obsession. Like, for example, doing doing content early in the morning while most people are going to work, to be focused on one person all the time. That's obsession. Good evening, Gigi. Thank you very much for stopping by. The topic for tonight is obsession. So I just gave a definition what it is about. Okay. Another example of obsession is that when you see a particular content creator, whether it be in the morning or whether it be in the evening, you're constantly hopping on by to troll, to harass. Yeah, that too. Now some of these individuals out of left field start to tag other content creators, and people are wondering why. I would say a good portion of it is to create attention. But let's keep it real. Sometimes some of these people, they don't know why they do what they do. Okay. It's almost like they're following, it's almost like they're on instinct. Okay. They have to they have to get on live. You know, they have to harass, they have to like troll. Okay. And then there's different levels of trolling. Okay. There's trolling when you can be funny. And then there's trolling when you harass. When you say anything about them other than their child of God. When you call them names, when you try to argue with these people. Okay. Now, unfortunately, we do have certain individuals that they cannot simply accept the fact that certain people that they don't like and just move on. Well, look, let me tell you something. Let me tell. This is a okay. This is a perfect. I'm going to give you a perfect example of an obsession. Now, I came across Miss Elite's channel. This certain individual. Okay. Every time he sees me or hears me, oh, I'm gonna have you deported. Oh, you're gonna go to El Salvador. I'm calling ICE on you. Now, I have to laugh for several reasons. Number one, I'm a U.S. citizen. I was born and raised in the United States. Number one. Number two, I'm able to prove who I am with documentation, passport, birth certificate, things of that nature. And believe me, now, as much as we may argue with ICE. As much as we may disagree with ICE, they're not. I mean, they're not going to listen to some lunatic who arguing with someone and says the same thing and repeatedly saying the same thing. Oh, I'm going to call ICE on you. I'm going to call ICE on you. I'm going to call ICE on you. Well, you know what? ICE had not knocked on my door. And then they'd be going into my social media and produce content without my permission. That's obsession. That's being obsessive. Now, I'm not going to state by name who are these individuals because that's what they want. They want you to name these individuals. They want you to cite these individuals, okay, and things of that nature. But those of you who have been following me, I have a name for the collective. I refer to them as the circus because they act like a bunch of clowns. Okay. So now I'm going to share something else. Now I came across this article, in fact, just now called "The Stigmatizing Mental Health Pathway: Obsessive Compulsion Behavior." Now, first of all, this is a condition that affects 1 in 40 adults and 1 in 100 children in the United States alone. That's something to consider. Now, there's a video, but I'm not going to play it because I don't want to get hit with a copyright strike. Well, this is just a narrative. How often you heard people say phrases like, I'm a little OCD. I like keeping my room really tidy, or please take off your shoes before you come to the house. I'm so OCD about that. The word OCD is often thrown around casually and used to describe people who really like to be clean or might be slightly bothered by messes. Mainstream media has constantly portrayed OCD as a lighthearted characterization of a neat freak. But what a lot of people don't understand is that OCD is much more complicated than that. In fact, one of the most misunderstood mental illnesses in society. Many people believe that OCD is just about hand washing, staying clean, and being organized. While this is the case for some, it's not true for everyone, and there are many different types of OCD. Now, obsession may be defined as unwanted thoughts, impulses, or images that appear in a person's mind and are difficult to control. They are accompanied by very intense and uncomfortable feelings that can occur over and over again without a person's control. They can include extreme fears of contamination, losing control, harming oneself or others, perfectionism, unwanted sexual thoughts, or religious obsessions. Compulsions are the repetitive behaviors or mental acts which individuals engage in with the intention of counteracting or making the obsessions go away. And they also serve as coping mechanisms. So I'm just going to go ahead. Now, so OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. The O is obsessive and includes obsessions all around kinds of things. Now, different types of things or subtypes that they're kind of broken up into. But it involves a distressing thought or image urge, urge or sensation that someone was experiencing, and then in order to reduce that anxiety and to get rid of, that those anxious feelings that come up from those distressing thoughts, they will engage in compulsions, and that's where we get the C. It's compulsive. And the compulsion can be physical, it can be something you do outwardly to reduce anxiety, or it can be mental. It can be a mental compulsion. It's something that you would do in your brain, of course, to kind of lower the anxiety. And over time, you yourself, you kind of tell your brain these compulsions have an impact and they're lowering your anxiety, but really, over time, they're just controlling that cycle of obsessions. They're telling your brain that there is something to be afraid of and they don't work in the long run. Compulsions are what really keeps you stuck instead of what keeps you safe. Now I'm just going to skip a couple of lines. A lot of people don't know that there's several types of OCD. Now there's an example, it's called moral scrupulosity. It's basically the idea of being a good person, but the compulsions that it will give you have no bearing of being a good person. So it'll be like, if I type and spell something wrong, my mind will automatically go to this dark place that that think I am uneducated, dumb, or good, or not good, I'm not putting it in good face. And my compulsion will be the kind of unread things, to check things, to make lists, and to make sure that I'm kind of going through that in a way that makes me feel comfortable. Okay, I'm just going to skip this a couple. Okay, so I'm just sharing an article regarding the stigmatism regarding obsessive OCD, obsessive compulsive. Let me see, what's the term again? I'm sorry. Disorder. Oh, I'm sorry. I just had a senior moment. Now, there are different types of treatments that are available to help deal with obsessive compulsive disorder. Let me just see here. So the gold standard for treating OCD is called exposure and response prevention. So it's ERP, therapy. It falls under the umbrella of cognitive behavioral therapy. So I know a lot of people are familiar with CPT, but it's a little bit more specific for OCD, particularly. So the E, exposure, is basically intentionally exposing yourself to the triggers which cause your anxieties. So if you avoid it, let's say you have anxiety around driving, you would intentionally drive and you would, maybe go further points as you progress. And then there's response prevention. Yeah, there is an obsession with food. Would be preventing the response. So instead of giving it into the compulsion, you will learn tools to sit with that anxiety, accept the anxiety, to accept the uncomfortable thoughts and feeling and urges, and not give in to the compulsion. And that is really hard because you're so used to giving in to the compulsion to lower your anxiety. Like I said earlier, it doesn't work, but your brain has been so unconditioned to believe that it does. Another way to deal with it is through meditation. I think it's super helpful for people with OCD to be able to be present as you can with your thoughts that are happening, because that allows you to know, recognize that, hey, this isn't real. Like, what's happening in our brain, and things are going to be fine. I also think like it's been really helpful to say, I think general art is therapy for a number of reasons, but I think it can really be a good vessel to like. But you will be feeling inside a piece of paper and look directly at it. Also, if you want to throw it, it's out if it's too much. But it can really be really good. And I think it's self-reflection. So let me just go ahead. So now we're going to talk about why the stigma exists. Yeah, it's so upsetting to watch TV show or movie and they say, "Oh, I'm so OCD." The web is being so bipolar. Things like that are just heartbreaking because there is a clinical diagnosis for these things. And the more we minimize them, the more we talk about them in a light that's not true. It's harder for someone to get help. And again, if I had known this, it was a thing 20 years ago, I would not spend my whole life thinking OCD about cleaning. And I think it can really be frustrating and hard to change. It's not something that changes overnight. That's true. So I'm just going to park it here. And of course, there's different techniques to deal with obsessive compulsive behavior disorder. One of them is um, therapy. Okay. Now, of course, the problem is this: there is still a stigma attached when it comes to mental health. Okay. Particularly if you are up around my age. Because truth be told, people of my generation were not taught to say it's okay to have mental health issues. I mean, for someone of my generation to actually say that, you would think you would be perceived as being crazy or insane, or being belong to the nut house. So, and in certain communities, it's even worse. Okay, in certain communities, the people, particularly men, are taught to be tough. They're taught to be stoic. They're taught not to admit they have a mental illness, and that's something I had to struggle with. Particularly when I've dealt with issues regarding depression and thoughts of self deletion. But I was able, slowly but surely, to admit the fact that I needed therapy. Yep, unfortunately, people who actually admit that they have mental health issues are often called soft or weak. Okay. And what people don't realize is this: admitting you have a problem, that's 50% of the battle right there. Because once you admit that you have a problem, you are at the stage where when you are prepared to deal with it. And you are at the stage where you become open to therapy. You'll be open to certain things which will cause you to relax, which will cause you to put your mind at ease. And there's certain things that you can do to try to deal with these mental health issues. I mean, sometimes you just have to get off of social media for a while. Okay. I mean, the fact that you have some people that they are addicted to social media. They have to be on it every day. They have to post everything. They have to post every time, like whenever they go and they're gonna get something to eat or whatever, or even when they go to the bathroom, whatever, they have to post. I mean, and they do anything and everything. They get clicks and views and likes. However, once you get to the point when you are able to acknowledge that you have OCD or any type of mental condition, then you're able to see a therapist. The therapist will give you suggestions regarding what um, things to consider, as far as what thought patterns to develop to change. Also, if necessary, um, medications to try um, to help you to deal with any mental health any mental health issue. Okay. Now, one thing that's very important, um, just as important when you excuse me, when you see a physician regarding a physical problem element, that you describe the physical symptoms that you are experiencing. So the doctor can do an assessment and then give you a diagnosis regarding treatment. It is the same thing when you're dealing with a therapist. You need to be completely honest and share with the therapist um, what are the mental symptoms that you are experiencing. When did it start? And if you're able to stay or was the trigger, just share it. And then based on that information, the therapist can give you certain strategies to deal with it, to deal with OCD. Some of them might require medication. Some of that might require certain thoughts or certain activities. Maybe they will suggest that you do meditation, or maybe pick up a habit that could be therapeutic. Okay. One thing I want to make it perfectly clear: I'm not here to pass judgment regarding people who are OCD or have an obsession. Okay. because basically they're all going through their own case of mental health. The fact that these individuals see the need to harass, to troll, also to dox, because some of these people do these things. Because again, let me make this perfectly clear. Hurt people hurt people. When you are not there, you're not whole mentally, you are not able to think things clearly. You're not able to think things logically. You're going to act purely on emotion. And the problem is when you think purely on emotion, it's going to lead to um, negative consequences depending on the level of the activity. Okay. So in any case, the link is there. Should anyone wish to hit the link and opine, or if anyone wants to stay in the chat, they can do so. Um, Now, one of the reasons why I do discuss issue when it comes to mental health is because of that fact. Look, at one point, many of us, and I said many of us, will go through life with mental health issues. Some of us are able to recognize this that we are going through mental health issues. Others they don't. They see nothing odd regarding their behavior. They see nothing odd regarding their compulsion. Okay. And they are, in a sense, in denial. Okay. And when you think about it logically, when you see certain individuals that constantly try to join platforms where they don't like the creator, where they're not welcome, that they go there for the express purpose of harassment, being a nuisance, doxing, filing false reports to the authorities. It all stems from the fact that you have certain individuals who just don't know how to deal with situations in a logical way. And one of the problems when it comes to social media, it gives anyone, regardless of their mental health, an opportunity to gain a platform and say whatever they want or do whatever they want. Okay. And unfortunately, at times, certain platforms, particularly YouTube, is not always consistent in enforcing its guidelines because there are several guidelines For example, you cannot use another person's content without their permission. You cannot air content that could be described as hate speech directed towards a group of individuals, whether it be because of religious, whether it be political, or it could be because of sexual orientation. And of course, there have been certain content creators. Let's keep it clear that they have advocated violence, hate speech, um, harming individuals, and again, because hurt people hurt people. That is the reality. And instead of acknowledging that they have an issue, they prefer to harass, mock, ridicule, be a nuisance, and in some cases, threaten your livelihood, threaten your families, and things of that nature. And I've personally seen this directed towards content creators, where there have been individuals that felt led to put their channels on private or delete their channels out of fear. The reality is there's really no there's really no space. There's no space that's 100% safe. All I can do is just be mindful of what I say or what I don't say, and there's certain things I'm not going to share because the consequences is I could be doxxed, I could be harassed, and that's something that we see, unfortunately. It's kind of like hearing you to like the wild wild west when you think about it, without the sheriff. So if no one hits the link, no one had any further comment, I will start to wrap this up. Now the next topic which I will share is I call deliverance, a Christian concept. Okay. Now when you think of the word deliverance, that's something. What it means is something. It's a need to be freed of. Okay. It could be freed of a fear. It could be freed of an addiction. It could be freed from people that will try to hurt you. But but in this case, I will be discussing it in terms of being what how it's viewed in Christianity. So let me just get something to drink. Excuse me. But one thing I will say that in closing, um, there's no shame to admit that you suffer from obsession. Okay, there is treatment available, and you can get past this. You can overcome this. The key, of course, is to admit you have a problem, and the key is to acknowledge and to be prepared to deal with it and get assistance. Until you're able to get to that point, you're never gonna get yourself free from this obsession. And it's more than simply being overly neat or being overly have a sense of being in control of everything. It is a mental illness. But in any case, I'm gonna wrap this up. Of course, um, the playback again, do your own thing, and of course, if you wish to share it, fine, as long if this is something that you found it useful or helpful. But again, anyone that uses my images to harass me, you will be reported. Okay. But in any case, um, a huge shout out to all those who watched it live and who will watch it later on in the playback. And I'm going to close the same way that we always close. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of the mentally and intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by the stupidity and mess of insanity. This has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron saying good night, take care, and